This is a Sheridanlife Radio podcast.
Welcome to Slipstream, a bi-weekly podcast on all things F1 and F1 culture. We're bringing you the most relevant from what goes on in the races, news, and speculations.
All right, so previously we had the Chinese race.
Yeah.
And we had Suzuka.
In Japan.
Any
yes.
impressions about Chinese one?
I thought it was a really good race. It was definitely kind of what we talked about last episode. Lot of car issues. It's the second race of the season. That's natural. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
But it was kind of crazy to see the shock of McLaren's just out of the race from the start. Both Piastri and Norris just didn't have cars to race with.
Was it Norris that was laughing?
Maybe, yeah.
Because I heard the radio of Norris just like he's like doing his Norris kind of laugh, and then I wasn't sure if it was like Suzuka or China, but yeah, it didn't sound too great.
Yeah. In China, they were just they got up to the plate, and the cars just weren't ready for them. And Norris didn't even get his car out onto the track. Piastri got his car to the starting position, but then they had to pull it. He wasn't able to race. Even later in the race, Verstappen had a lot of issues. Many different drivers. The cars just weren't set up for them.
I think after the race, what was it? I don't know if it was China or Japan, but like Verstappen had his head. He was like pretending to bang his head against the wall.
That would be China.
For the interview, yeah. And then Norris and Verstappen were exchanging looks of they were both laughing, but it was like they look like they've lost it.
Yeah, I mean in the China race, Verstappen was in the race for a good amount of time until I believe it was the 42nd lap where Red Bull just pulled him. It wasn't even a DNF. They just decided.
Well, yeah.
It's a DNF.
If you retire the car,
But they retired the car. They were like, it's not worth it to keep racing. We're already in, like, we're not getting points at this point. We're just going slow.
Yeah.
They can't go. So it's a crazy start to the season after Melbourne, and now with China, and just not great look for Red Bull.
But we knew from the start, like, as the FIA regulations have completely changed the car with the power unit of 50% electric, 50% gas, and with the electricity needing the refuel charge. So, obviously drivers would have to manage their efficiency, whether they want to use some power, they want to recharge. And that in itself is not only difficult for the engineers, it's also causes, obviously we're seeing a lot of reliability issues.
Yeah.
I don't know if the FIA should continue with this, especially since have you seen Suzuka?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. With the Ollie Behrman crash,
the crash,
the 50G. Do you remember? Was it earlier? It was like 20th lap or something.
Yeah, it was about the 20th lap, and because
or 19th, something like that.
Yeah. What's his name? He has a fun name. Guy
Franco.
Yeah.
Colapinto.
Yeah, Colapinto kind of slammed on the brakes a bit, but in front of him, which made Behrman,
Colapinto was in his recharge state, so Ollie was trying to overtake Colapinto. Colapinto slowed his car down like something like 50 either kilometers or miles per hour. But that difference is night and day in F1.
Yeah.
And basically Ollie had to kind of swerve out of his way because, he would be hitting Colapinto at that rate.
Yeah.
So obviously very dangerous, but it's not even like since the start of the season, even before, F1 drivers have been protesting. They've been saying it's dangerous. Carlos Sainz said multiple times an incident is going to happen, and it did happen. It's not only Carlos Sainz, it's like a lot of other drivers have vocalized the dangerous like aspects of the speed difference between when someone's recharging versus when someone's like racing full speed.
Yeah. And Ollie Behrman was lucky enough to be able to get out of the way in time.
Yeah.
Slamming and spinning out and slamming into the wall is a much better alternative to ramming into a car that's going 50 kilometers less than you.
Wall.
Yeah, anything where
that's
it's
like
just
really close. And that's what Carlos Sainz was saying, is that he was saying that imagine if this wasn't Suzuka. Imagine if it was Baku, whether it's like really close to the castle wall. So it wouldn't have been 50 Gs. It would have been a lot more than 50 Gs because he would have just immediately slammed into the
Yeah.
wall. And it's raising a lot of concerns. And thankfully, Ollie was able to go out with a bruised knee. He was limping, as we saw, away
Yeah.
with the he was limping to the
With the medical team.
to the marshals. And it was such like, because Suzuka is where Jules Bianchi passed away previously, where his incident was he crashed into it was like a tractor or some kind of operating machine
Yeah.
that was on the side of the track, so he died.
Oh, wow. When was it? This many years ago, I assume?
This was many years ago, and he had a close relationship with Charles and Pierre
Yeah.
Gasly. So it was a grim day for F1, and that's why that halo of the car was in place, which is like the there's a big thing holding it right in front of the driver's cockpit, and then
Yeah.
there's like a circle that kind of attaches it to the car,
Yeah.
and that is called a halo, and that was invented to avoid a lot of detrimental crashes like that. But the fact that another horrifying crash has happened, which was in fault of the new car system, tells you quite a bit. Because hey, I'm not saying that just because a crash happens we should change the regulations of the car, because what was it? It was Zhao Guan Yu. It was Silverstone a couple years ago, or several years ago,
Yeah.
and he also had a horrifying crash where his car basically got crushed. And yeah, racing incident happens. People died in Formula One a lot, or get set on fire. Like that's
Yeah.
things happen, but it's just the drivers are saying that more of these incidents will continue to happen if the cars don't change, right? Which is why we canceled the upcoming 2 races, which was in the Middle East. It was Saudi Arabian one, and I think it was Bahrain.
Yeah. In a sport where racing is supposed to be high speed, there's always going to be issues. There's always going to be crashes. But once you add a new variable of having to slow down when you have other races who are
That
trying
are
to go as
really
fast
high
as
speed,
possible, it creates this extra danger. It's another variable on top of it, where instead of you have the, I'll say, minimal risk of potentially hitting each other
Mhm.
when you're at high speed, now it's suddenly a lot easier to crash out, especially in this second race of the season. We're seeing a lot more people spinning out. We're seeing a lot of these issues. A lot
Yeah.
of people just aren't able to race because their cars aren't qualified for it.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of the route F1 is going, because I know that they try to brand themselves as more eco-friendly, eco-conscious, which is why even a couple years ago it was still hybrid, but it wasn't as like the electricity component of the car wasn't 50%. It was much lower, something around 25 or even lower of the percentage. So it was still hybrid, but it was much less. The problem with now is that it's not being eco-conscious to have half lithium batteries in the car.
Yeah.
And just because I think it is just to stand up for consumers and sponsorships, because they obviously, the biggest concern about F1 for a lot of marketing standpoint is that it is not an eco-friendly sport, because hey, racing has never been very eco-conscious. It's about driving and burning fuel, and F1 cars, after a race, it gets retired because they have a lot of chassis and they have to change engines. So it's not like they're reusing the same car in F1 multiple times, but the amount of how many cars a team would have would definitely be detrimental to the budget that the team has. So top teams like McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, they have a lot of spare cars. Well, not a lot, but they do have spare cars.
They have extras. They have the money
handy.
for it.
And teams like Williams, where they don't have that much sufficient, hundreds of millions of dollars short, then yeah, they have to be a lot more careful and intentional with the cars and how much they can spend, because they'll have a lot less of spares. And so normally in F1, the way I know it is, when 2025 season's happening, they're already starting to work on the 2026 car.
Yeah.
And what happened with Max is that they stopped production of the 2026 car to focus on his 2025 car because he had that potential to win the
Right.
race against Lando Norris. And of course, he was 2 points
2 points
short.
away. Yeah.
Yeah, but see, the way the teams manage their time, and I don't blame it. I genuinely do not blame the state Red Bull is at currently, just the fact that they chose to obviously try and help
Yeah.
Max's car
And I
more.
think that was a good decision to try to help
He
Max's car
definitely
at
had
the
the
time.
potential, yeah.
Yeah.
It was just so short. So, because Red Bull had a slow start last year, and I'm afraid that they're going to have the same slow start this year.
Yeah. And by the time they get their bearings with the new car and get everything finally set up, it
May be
too
too
late.
late because the Mercedes, they got this formula down. Like, they're
Yes.
really good. They got this engineering. They're ready to win races now. And Kimi Antonelli, the youngest pole sitter in the history of F1 at the age of 20.
Yeah, and second youngest Grand Prix winner of all time in F1.
Right. Because he
with
won the past two
he won,
races.
yeah, and so that's a big topic for this episode. In the past two races, Kimi Antonelli came first in the Grand Prix with Russell right behind, and
Right.
it's a huge Mercedes win. Throughout both the races, there was incredible competition between Mercedes and Ferrari,
Mhm.
but Mercedes took the lead both times. They dominated.
Hey, it's Amelia, founder of Sheridanlife Radio. If you're listening to this and are wondering how podcasts like this even happen, the answer is students like you. Sheridanlife Radio is a student-run station where you can get involved in podcasting, radio hosting, music programming, production, journalism, and creative leadership. No experience required. If you want real media experience while you're still in school, this is where it starts. Head to Sheridanlife Radio and get involved.
I'm going to shout out my cousin here.
Okay.
I have a cousin, and he is a big Mercedes fan, not only because of Hamilton, but because of Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah.
And he is a fan of Kimi Antonelli because he is the same age as Kimi. So seeing that you have someone who has such a high potential and is beating out veterans. He's beating out Leclerc. He's beating out Hamilton. He's beating out Russell, who is his, an older driver, as senior. And he is winning races, and it really goes to show talent doesn't wait.
Yeah.
Talent. Yeah.
And I see the same thing in Piastri. Even though Piastri hasn't been winning as much, he has the skills. He has a fairly good car with McLaren for getting the China race. I want to see more rookies. They're doing good. They're pushing ahead. I think if Kimi Antonelli keeps it up, a rookie winning the season would be amazing.
I think that is definitely a potential. And I forgot which race, but Russell, over the team radio to Mercedes, was asking if they were going to switch positions with Kimi as practiced.
Oh, interesting.
And the team said, we'll get back to you on that. And obviously, he didn't get the switch back.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Russell asking to switch positions. And I think the way the team was prioritizing Kimi was that he was leading, he had the pace, and there was no need to sacrifice anything with having to switch. Because at the end of the day, it's a team sport. And if both of your drivers are 1 and 2, you don't have to switch them for no reason unless it's like part of the strategy. So yeah, I think now it's more in terms of, I hope McLaren doesn't have this thing again with Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg.
Yeah.
The Silver Era War, because I mean, the two drivers, I feel like this season, I said earlier, Russell maybe the world champion, but now I'm seeing Kimi Antonelli has a decent chance.
And honestly, I think a big part of that's going to be the mental. If Russell, who is has a bit of an ego, which we've seen before, he's a little arrogant. He's been winning. He sees himself as the lead. Now he sees Kimi Antonelli, and it goes to show what you were saying. If with his comment, will Russell be able to take it, and how will that show in his performance? Will he be a little more cocky in his racing? Will he want first for himself instead of for the team? Because obviously Russell's going to want the championship if he sees his teammate who's the rookie, who's new, and who's
doing a lot better,
outperforming him. Then how is Russell going to take it, and how's that going to impact Mercedes team? Are we going to have that rivalry, and how will that affect where
Yeah.
Mercedes goes with their priority?
I think it's also back when Red Bull actually had the dominant cars, and it was 2020. Was it 2021 or something similar, where Daniel, Ricciardo, and Max Verstappen,
Yeah.
they were fighting to switch positions in Baku, and what ended up happening was one of them rear-ended the other,
Oh,
and both
wow.
of them were out of the race.
Wow.
And we've seen the same similar stuff happen with Mercedes, with Nico and Hamilton as well. But is that, will the situation happen where the two drivers start competing against each other, and will
Yeah.
that cause more tension within the team? And with Kimi, he is so young. He has never been a pole sitter race winner like that before.
Yeah.
In terms of like, people see that he has the potential to win the world championship. He's leading the contention right now, and I hope Kimi, obviously stays humble, and he's
Yeah.
able to
Yeah.
reset his mental, so he can, obviously not let that winner mentality get to him a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really, after the race, they showed Kimmy on the radio. It was just like, it was really sweet. It's like, yeah, I did it, guys. Let's go.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
I
It's
love
just,
that.
it's sweet. It's like, obviously, it's his first win. He's a rookie. He's going to
Yeah.
be happy. I think anyone would have that reaction.
Yeah.
But just compared to when you see some of the more veteran drivers, when they're like, yeah, we did it, guys. Again, another one in the bag.
Yeah.
It's nice to see that rookie mentality of just this sweet guy winning.
Mhm.
And we'll see how that changes throughout the season. We'll see. I think it'll be really interesting to see how other teams develop with their cars.
Yeah.
And seeing how the drivers adapt, where this shifts. But looking at this this new season, the first few races, Mercedes is really strong, and I think they're at the moment a clear like number one spot.
I also remember Toto Wolff, which is the race principal for McLaren. He was giving this little speech to Kimi where it was like, they told me, and I'm paraphrasing here, but they were telling him, hey, don't put a 19-year-old, don't put a 20-year-old in Mercedes. Like, you guys have junior teams, like, you don't need to put it in like a, and then he was saying, you proved them wrong, and this is what we want to see to Kimi. And I feel like, man, that was heartwarming. Like, if I was Kimi, I'd be so ecstatic.
Same. It's great to see that. Talking about some of the back and forth between teams, the other one I wanted to mention was Ferrari. In the past two races, it was incredibly competitive between the two drivers, and they were both performing really well,
overtaking each other.
But they were overtaking each other. They were getting in the way of each other.
Yeah.
Because
they're trying to defend their position. Yeah.
Exactly. Hamilton wanted that first podium, with Ferrari, which he got in Japan.
Yeah.
But you have two lead drivers. They both want to be the number one driver on the team. When you put one of them as your secondary and one of them as your primary, they're both going to fight for that position. And I'm seeing a lot of that back and forth that is kind of developing with Mercedes, but it's getting really strong with the Ferraris.
What I think what happened is that Hamilton, he really wanted the 8th world championship. He wants to beat Michael Schumacher's 7.
Yeah.
And when he was struggling to stay in Mercedes, because before this year, Mercedes has not been doing the best in terms of making a race contender car. And Toto said, hey, wait, we will build a car that will win you the 8th world championship. And I wonder, is he regretting that because he sees that McLaren has these two great drivers and two great car, and he missed a chance. And he also has a competitive car, a decently competitive car with Ferrari, but it's not Mercedes level, it seems like. And I think he really wants the 8th world championship before he retires.
Yeah.
I think that's what's holding him together. And previously, I've seen interactions with him and his racing engineer, and it would just be kind of like one-sided. And one time, Hamilton, he was saying, grazie. He was like, thank you so much for being there with me. And the race engineer just like left him on silent.
Oh, wow.
He left him on silent. And then like a bit later, that was painful. It was very quiet. A bit of a laps go by, or like he just continuing to drive a little bit, and then he goes, did you guys catch that? And then the racing engineer, yeah, it's like we were having a break or something. And it's just so disrespectful, because it shows that like they were not really caring because they knew he wasn't going to win world championship. But
Yeah.
now that he has that spark back, I think he's really going to fight for it. And Charles, who has never won,
Yeah.
as you know, he's not a world championship winner. He really wants to obviously prove himself, and he has been with Ferrari for so long
Yeah.
that
And
it's kind of
he's been a number one for Ferrari for a long time. Like,
for a very long
he's
time.
consistently winning Grand Prix.
Yeah.
He's consistently, like, even finishing in the top podiums for the full championship.
Right.
But he's just never gone to the number one. So there's both very valid reasons for both drivers to want to take it.
Yeah.
And I think it's up to the management of Ferrari to really get a hold on that and, I guess, understand where their priorities lie. Because there can only be one winner, obviously. And so it's really up to the management for Ferrari to figure out where are we going to put all our money into.
I wonder because before the way so Max recently drove for Nürburgring, the endurance
Yeah.
and then they did pretty well, but they got disqualified because, illegal tires or something. But Max's car is actually a Mercedes sponsored by Red Bull. And as a Mercedes team principal, I know Toto and was trying to like get in contact with Max a lot, and they had this private meeting in some kind of like European country, and Toto even worked so hard to push the Nürburgring race bit back so Max could still have his race in F1 and still be able to participate. And I wonder, is Max going to quit F1 or is he going to join Mercedes?
That's an interesting question, especially depending on how things go with Red Bull this year. Because I think Max has had a good standing
I think
with Red
he's
Bull
lost
in the
it right
past.
now.
Yeah, right now. But I think that's kind of due to the car and due to just maintenance issues.
Frustrations.
Yeah, a lot of frustrations within himself, within the team. I think it's early in the season, seeing how it goes in the next few races. Because like even last season in 2025, they had a slow start, but he brought it back.
Yeah.
If they can bring it back this year, then maybe he's happy with Red Bull.
But I also know it's not just about performance to Max. Max is about his passion for racing.
That's
and for
true.
him, he hates the car regulations right now. And he hates the way it has to be, 50% electric and having to do fuel conservation. And he just, if he loses that spark for F1, he's gone because he can do a lot of other things.
He
like
can.
Alonso did, because
Yeah.
Alonso also participated in 24 hours in Le Mans. And I hope Max is such a great contender that he doesn't, leave. But he is not like Hamilton, where he's like, I need the 5th world championship. I need 6. He is happy and he's content to leave with what he has.
He has a family. He has a good life. He has a strong streaming career.
Yeah.
He has options. He could stay as a Red Bull driver. Like
Yeah.
Red Bull Sports does a ton of stuff. He's doing things with them. It's possible he decides to step away from F1. Or maybe he looks into another team like Mercedes or something like that.
I think Max, when Max qualified, was it 17th or something?
Yeah.
It was tough. I've never seen Max qualify so low for so long, or if not ever, because I don't remember him qualifying or struggling to qualify because he's always been, the top racer. But when he was being overtaken by Pierre Gasly, he waved. Did you see that?
No, that's
on his
funny.
dashboard. He waved at Pierre, and it's just like, this guy he knows he doesn't have like a fighting chance against these cars, and he's just like given up at this point, kind of.
Yeah.
So
and
it's hard to see.
which it brings up a good point, like you were saying before, that spark in his eye. If he going into the race, if he knows he's not going to make it, he's not going to try to race. If his car isn't up to the quality that he
like retiring
feels he deserves,
and being overtaken by midfielder cars, and
he's in a Lightning McQueen situation in like Cars 3 when all the cars are better than his. But he's still trying. He knows he still has it, but he can't perform as well.
No.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to see.
But I think an interesting lineup, because Max has it in his clause in his contract that he is able to leave his Red Bull seats. I don't know if it's whenever, but I know like throughout this year, worst case, like he is in his clause, he doesn't have to spend his time in Red Bull for 2027.
Okay.
So I wonder if Max goes to Mercedes, will they sack Russell?
That's the big question, especially if Kimi does really well this year.
Right.
because my normal thought, if Kimi didn't win the last 2 races, I'd be, oh, you put Kimi back down to F2 and he's in the reserves.
Or even a different team.
Or a different team. Yeah, you keep him in. But if Mercedes would want Verstappen, I think.
Obviously,
See
yeah.
how this year
Toto
goes, but yeah,
loves Max.
The other big thing though, being a Red Bull driver gives a lot of perks if, say, Max wants to do more Red Bull sponsored activities outside of F1. If he leaves leaves Red Bull, if he goes to Mercedes, he's potentially saying goodbye to that future if he wants to step away from
But
F1.
he would have to join because Mercedes is sponsored by Monster.
Oh.
He would just do the
That's
same
actually
thing but at
interesting.
Monster.
Okay, that's true. Okay.
Yeah.
That could be interesting. Swapping around between.
I know he loves drinking Red Bull. So there was this one interview, and I think it was either Russell. No, it wasn't Russell. It was Norris, and they're also sponsored by, or were sponsored by Monster.
Yeah.
And they taped the Red Bull can, because one of the sponsored by Monster team, one of the drivers were having a hard time drinking Monster. Like they just like swapped it out for a Red Bull, but they like taped the can so you couldn't see the sponsors at all.
That's funny.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Russell or Norris, but I would see Norris drink his own Monster flavor, because they had a Hamilton Monster flavor and now they have a Norris Monster flavor, and he would like wince. He would be physically wincing, like his eyes would close, like he would have this like unpleasant face every time after taking a sip of his own drink.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah, I had a Monster phase. Monster isn't great. Red Bull's kind of better.
I personally like the taste of Red Bull better.
Yeah,
but
I agree. As of right now, in the 2026 standings, Kimi Antonelli has 72 points and 2 wins. George Russell has 63 points and 1 win. Charles Leclerc has 49 points, no wins. Hamilton has 41 points and no wins. And Norris has 25 points and 0 wins after 3 races. So we'll see what's to come in the next few races. But this is what we have for Slipstream this week.
Thank you for listening.
See you next time.